Welcome to the tip on top of the tip. We're gonna start this thing all right.
Welcome to Tip on Top of the Tip. I am Zenitra Perry.
And I am INEZ Chimangarisa. We are here today. I'm excited about the tip today, y'all. How was your week, Z? How's your week been?
You know, I am celebrating this week. My son just graduated from the 5th grade.
Oh,
I can't believe it. He will be a middle schooler next year. And this was quite the challenging year. So I was every day just praying to get to the last day. And so we are finally here. Graduation has happened. It is done. 5th grade is behind us.
Yes, Lord.
I will also have a 2nd grader who just pulled out her own front tooth yesterday. She was like, "Oh, this is loose. Okay, I'm gonna work on it," and then it was gone. So it's very indicative of how authority she has in her own life.
Okay.
So I am celebrating today. I'm so glad the school year is over, ready to kick off summer. How about you, boo? How you feeling?
This week has been a week of stretching for me. Like, it really has been a week of stretching. I am doing like some really big things in my business. If you all don't know, I am hosting a retreat called the Getaway for Moms Who Need a Break. That includes the one-on-one coaching that you need to keep a getaway on your calendar. So I've been like running marketing and sales and, just planning out the trip and planning out the program and just all of these things in the midst of kind of like transitioning my life into hopefully being able to do this full time. So it has been like a week of revelations because it's really not until you jump fully into your uncomfort zone that you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, do I really believe? Like, do I really believe that I can really make this happen? Like, and then of course, all of the obstacles are going to show up and you really just got to like push. So that has been the week that it's a lot of times it's the mental obstacles more than the physical obstacles. So that has been my week, like just pushing through the mental obstacles, like, no, we're going to walk in expectancy. Okay. That's what we're going to walk in, expectancy.
I absolutely love that. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Already.
Thank you.
I know that event is going to be amazing. And people, will be transformed by it. So it's always good to bet on you because
hello.
You ain't never gonna let you down. So
not at all. Okay. Oh, this is so good. That go with the tip, girl. I love it. Okay.
It just work out.
It just be working out.
Well, since we're already there,
yes.
Let's go ahead and we're gonna
start all right.
Every Friday, we're gonna start it off right. So let me just go ahead and get this wheel spinning.
Okay, so if y'all don't know, we do a value every time we do the tip on top of the tip. It's a life and business value, and we randomly select which one we want to talk about and talk about what it means to us.
Yes. So today's value is usefulness. Usefulness. What does that mean to you?
So when I think about usefulness as a value, I feel like it means like, what benefits do I bring to others, right? To other people. And so like being around me, talking to me, working with me, being my friend, being connected to me, what is the benefit people get out of it, right? And to me, that's what usefulness is. It makes me think about when I was at Morgan State, shout out to the Bears. I was in student government. And one of the things that I talked about whenever I was running was that my goal was to make Morgan better than it was when I got there, right? To me, that's what usefulness is. Like, are you making things better than it was when you arrived, right? Are you making people better? Are you making, your workplace better, right? Are you making teams better? Are you making your family better, right? To me, that is what usefulness is, because realistically, I think it aligns with like purpose too. If you walk and live your life in a purposeful way, I feel like you are bringing a lot more use and usefulness to the scenarios. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that. I love that you started off there. And it's always interesting to me how our brains go different places, but somehow it always connects and it works. Because I was initially thinking about it from a work perspective. And I was thinking about the time when I was a field trainer. And at that time, being a field trainer, so in kind of sales development and training and education, we reported into a marketing organization, right? So our leadership wasn't also in field training. Like like we were literally the field training department, a department of one, or, you know, with your peers. But while you're out executing, you're pretty much a department of one, and your seniors had a different objective. They were in marketing. So they had different goals and objectives where we fed into that. And it was our job to bring back useful information. And so, you know, when you're in an actual call center, there are things that are happening that may be useful to your line of business, but the information that you take back, you have to be able to decipher, is this, you know, useful for me, or is this important for my supervisor? So, and sometimes it falls into both categories. For example, if we walk into a call center and we see that the call volume is like super high, we know that that day we may not be able to do any training because they're not going to be able to pull folks off the phone. That's also useful information that we could have taken back to our leadership to be like, hey, hopefully we'll see kind of a spike in sales because, you know, with the increased call volume, hopefully they're executing more sales. And then the inverse, like if we go in and the call volume is super low, like that's information that we would need, that was useful, that we could send back. However, just because there was a new call center manager, like that information was useful to the sales trainer because they're working in the field. It's going to change their contact. It's a new person that they need to get to know. However, it's not as important to the marketing organization who the manager is at the call center, right? Like that's more day-to-day operations. And so when I think about usefulness, it automatically took me to like, who is the audience that I'm directing this information to, and how that can differ depending on who that audience is. One piece of information that's useful and beneficial over here may not be as useful and beneficial to the other place. And so that's kind of like where I initially started out. And then as I thought about it, you know, from a leadership perspective, it was harder to separate personal from professional, right? Because I'm thinking about, to your point, how am I beneficial to those around me, to my team? What type of environment am I creating? You know, how do they feel when they're around me? Not just like, am I focused on their work? I think, you know, in more executor roles, you get to focus on the task, or at least maybe that's more of a priority. But whenever you're in leadership, like I don't want to say the task is the least important, but it's definitely not number one, right? Like, you know, thinking about the culture that you create, are you building trust? Like all of those things are the things that make you useful beyond just kind of the deliverable that you're, you know, either receiving or assigning or sending to someone else. So it was interesting, the journey that my brain went through in thinking about usefulness and what it means.
Yeah, I think that like I love the idea of like knowing your audience, right? Because like in my role as a solution architect, I have to be the in-between person for the sales team, right? Who have one goal, right? The customer success team, right? Who have another goal, the engineering team that has another goal, the product team that has another goal, right? And so we sit right in the middle, like, and we are serving all of these teams. And I like to say that we are creating solutions that benefit the client, but also benefit the business. Right. And so we can't just build things that just the client wants, and it's going to cost us a lot of money and we can't reuse it. And, you know, it isn't on our product roadmap and those type of things. But we also have to be flexible in understanding like the clients run the business. Right. And so there has to be some sort of compromise, and being able to be useful to the client, right? Sharing the information that they need about what's the actual impact to their coachees, for instance. Like they may have an idea about something, but it's like, you know, helping them really think through the decision-making process with regard to spending money on doing something that may not even impact the user's journey, or that the people who they're buying it for may not even use, right? Being able to be useful to the sales team and allowing them to know like, hey, these are things that we cannot promise. These are things that are on the roadmap coming. These are things that we can promise, right? These are the conversations that you need to be having. This is how you need to potentially be of overcoming objections, right? On your calls, being able to get the engineering team to hurry up and get stuff done, and like giving them the information that they need, the useful information they need to be able to execute on a timely basis. Like just these things like are all important. And I feel like in my work life it's very important, but also I'm just thinking about in my real life, like knowing your audience.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like just in this moment, like I gotta be able to know how to be useful and provide the information that my 3-year-old needs in order to be able to understand, right? And then also be able to provide the information that my husband may need, and that information may change based on the situation that we're in, right? And also knowing your audience in a way of how you will need to share the information so that they receive it and process it.
Yes.
Right. That's what I'm thinking about as well. Because it can't be beneficial if they don't receive it and process it.
Right.
Right.
No, I love that. I think parenting, man, everything that we talk about with the tip on top of the tip, even though it's based in kind of work and corporate, like parenting is a corporation in and of its own, a whole corporation. And so when I think about the different audiences, I think about my 2 children and how they are very 2 different people, and how I say something to one will be received well. And if I say that exact same thing to the other person, it will not be received well, or the message may be missed. And so you're constantly kind of pivoting and kind of recrafting your message, even if it's the same message, but if it's being delivered to different audiences, you know, you have to take into consideration, to your point, how do they receive information? What is relevant to them to make sure that, you know, the point is gotten across. The newest thing for me in my life, the newest thing, I'm laughing because it shouldn't be new, but it is asking for help.
I just did a whole live on that yesterday. A whole live.
Very new.
Asking for help.
Very new. And you know, it's, you know, you mentioned being able to give information to your husband, and kind of knowing him and understanding like what that looks like. So I have a village of people, thankfully, that I have to go to request support from. And depending on who I'm talking to, like that information has to change. And the thing that I get caught up in is giving the information to one person, but not to the person that actually needed it, just because you're just in the midst of doing the things and you've said it. And so you feel like, oh, I told that person, but like you might have told a different person in the village than the one that was actually going to execute on it.
Right.
You know, something as simple as graduation, right? I'm a front and center kind of parent. So I like to be sitting in the front and in the center so that I can see my child and scream as loudly as possible. So that they're supporting them. That requires a certain promptness that isn't always easily executable with 2 small children. So I have to bring in the reinforcements and tag team my aunt, who is super prompt. She's gonna get there before whoever's running the event gets there. Okay, like she's about to be on the setup team. But as I was going through and telling all the people, you know, what time graduation starts and like what the morning's gonna look like and all the things that I have to do, I told her the start time, but I didn't tell her all the things that I had to do. But I told like my mom, I told my dad, I told all of these people. And it didn't hit me until that morning that I hadn't told her, hey, like I need you to be there, you know, 45 minutes before, just in case there is a line, because I know that you are on team prompt, right? And so, but thankfully, you know, you got to know who's on your team. Because she knew the start time. And so when I called her to see if she could get there early, she was already there.
On her way. Already there.
Sitting in the parking lot. Sitting in the parking lot in the dark. The sun hadn't
even come. In the dark.
She was, you know, Johnny on the spot with that. And part of that is, you know, communicating to multiple people. She got the message. You know, I think she ended up speaking to my mother. But
that's a word, because you also got to know who is useful in your life.
Hello.
Okay. Like, I mean, we're talking about being useful, but you need to know who is useful in your life. Okay. And it's funny because this, oh my gosh, this is going with the tip in my mind, girl. We're about to have to jump into it because, because listen.
Kick off the tip. Let's kick off the tip.
So listen, okay? And I'm gonna need you to tell a story because you know I remember stuff. But
I know. Hit us with the tip
for today is, can you walk and talk? Okay. Now, I know a little bit of this story, but only a smidgen. Okay. So I remember when we were young, we used to go to church conference with Zenitra's grandmother, right? And basically we would travel, you know, to different places in North Carolina, and we would link up with other kids whose parents or grandparents brought them as well. And so, of course, us being the young ladies that we were interested in the boys. Okay. And so, but some of the guys were like, they would like, I remember being like at a hotel or something, and there were guys there, and we were like, they wanted to talk to us, like, so they would talk to us, but we would want to like go places too. Like we were like, oh, we're gonna go downstairs, or we're gonna go here, go there. And they couldn't go, like for whatever reason. Either they didn't want to go, or they was actually like, you know, tied to the spot, because you know, parents back in the day didn't play. So we was like, oh, well, honey, look, if you can't walk and talk, then we don't want nothing to do with you. Like, just like, let me tell you, you need to be able to walk and talk in order to hang out with us. Like, so that is what I remember of this story, y'all. Thank you.
I am proud of you for remembering something
in our childhood.
This might be the first story where you were like kind of, you know, on it, because you usually forget everything. But yes, that is one of the many instances. So as INEZ mentioned, we used to travel a lot for church conference, but we also grew up dancing tap, jazz, ballet competitively. So we would go, you know, all over to compete. And another piece to this story is we were competing at Disney World, Universal Studios on that leg of the tour. And we met them Georgia boys, as they call themselves. But as we were navigating the park, of course, we were on, you know, the hunt for boys. And we also came across boys who could walk, meaning they could leave their parents to explore the park the same way we had the freedom to explore the park, but they were boring because they had zero conversation. They didn't have anything to talk about. So we as we were traveling about, being these, you know, little spunky teenage girls, we came up with this, you know, we had these different experiences that led us to, we need you to be able to walk. So you need to go somewhere if we want to go and explore, but you also need to be able to talk. Like, we don't want to stand here and talk to you in front of your mama all day, but we also don't want to walk and go explore and, you know, be in a silent movie. So that is the origin. So there are so many stories. There are so many stories that led to that. You need to be able to walk and talk. And it's funny whenever, so it's like, okay, girl, what if it had to do with work?
Right. Like, so when I thought about this, and I was just really like, So for me, like, with regard to walking and talking, like, to me, the first thing that came to mind was execution. Right? This is about execution, right? Do you talk a good game, or are you about it too?
Yes.
Right? Because even when I think back to those moments, I'm like, if you're talking a good game, but you can't walk with us, then you're not about it. We got stuff to do. Like,
yes,
there's places to explore, right? And so in my mind, it was like, do you really go after the things you say you're going to do, right? With a level of vigor, right? A level of execution that allows you to get stuff done. Like, and I think about it so much in real life, but especially in work life. Like, I remember, like, one thing I can't stand is somebody who, like, I don't even know how to say it because I don't want to offend people. I'm just like, I can't stand people who aren't doing anything, right, at work. Like, so I can understand. And by doing anything, I mean not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then also not asking for help, right, and doing the things. But especially if you're slowing me down, like, especially if you're slowing me down. And so I feel like in work, like it's important that you know your limitations and know what you want to have done, know what you want to get done, right? Have a vision for what you want to do, understand the vision of the company, understand the vision of your team, right? Know how that applies to your actual job, create the things that you're supposed to do, that you're responsible for, and be able to execute on them. And if you can't execute on them, you need to be getting managerial or some sort of support on how to get better at executing, or what is it that you need to do in order to better execute. But to me, that is what is set in my spirit from a work perspective. What about you?
I love that. I love that. So I'm right there with you. So 2 words came to mind. It's action and advocacy, right? The action is, you need to be able to walk. Can you do the things? Can you get the things done? And I was just thinking about all of the different sayings that are tied to action, like actions speak louder than words. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Be careful of those people whose words don't match their actions. And my all-time favorite, don't talk about it, be about it. Right. So to your point, it's about action. It's about being able to get things done. And even in that action also has to lead to progress, right? Because you can't confuse movement with progress. You can be doing things in the space of doing and moving, but you could be moving in circles. How are you able to move things forward? So not just action, but also progress tied to that action. And then on the talk, specifically from the leadership perspective, you have to make sure that you're able to advocate for your team. And what does that look like? Do they know that you're a supporter of them? Have you said that to them? Like, hey, I'm on your team. Let me know how I can support you, or put it in their affirmative. I am here to support you. Say it again, and say it again, right? So you have to be action oriented, but you also have to be an advocate for your team as a leader. You have to be able to give them praise in front of their peers, in front of their seniors. Also in private, right? So it's not just about saying that you're there to talk for them or to speak for them and to advocate for them, but also, again, putting the actions around that. So it really very much for me, it was like the work that you're doing and, being useful. Right? Like you got to walk, you got to do something, you got to be useful. You have to be in the space of acting, of being active. And then how do you advocate? And so from a leadership perspective, I'm talking about advocate for your team, but as an individual, you have to be able to advocate for yourself too. Because who cares if you're doing all of this great work, but no one knows? So you need to be able to walk and talk. You need to be able to do the thing and then also let people know that you're doing the thing. So I love this one because it wasn't a direct correlation, but to me, my mind got there very quickly of like what walking and talking in a corporate situation looks like.
Yeah, I was thinking about, as you were talking about advocating from a leadership perspective, it made me think about my managers. And one of the things that I have been blessed to have, I've always had amazing managers ever since I entered corporate America. And the reason why they were amazing was because, one, all of them had done the job that I was doing, right? So they fully understood what it took. They understood the problems that we faced, and they were exceptional at moving obstacles out of our way, right? And really being able to advocate for our team, but also advocate for each of us individually. They also were great at mentorship, right? And saying, hey, like if this is what you want to do, then these are the things you need to do to get it, right? Or showing us and growing us in a way that allowed us to be better at our jobs. And it made me think, as you were talking about sayings, one of my absolute favorite motivational speakers, Eric Thomas, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher, says execution is worshipped. And I love that because what he says is nobody cares about the ideas that you have, right? Everybody has ideas. But when you think about the people who are most successful, right? The people who are talked about, the people who, get the press, the people who are most, have the most money, those are the people who execute. And that's because execution is worship. It's plenty of people who got ideas, right? And so even when I think about my managers, anytime I speak of any of my managers, I always am speaking of them very highly, right? Because of their level of being able to walk and talk, to be able to execute on the things that they say they were going to do. And to your point, be able to advocate for me as an employee and as a team member. And I really believe that is true, like with regard to it being worshiped. And and when you think about yourself as an employee, right, or even as a business owner, not getting too stuck in the vision or the small things that aren't going to result in big outcomes, right? So when you're executing, think about the things that are going to create the biggest outcomes for the biggest results that you want, and execute on those, because those are probably going to be the things that are maybe a bit more uncomfortable to do, but they are going to be the things that people really see and in essence worship you for, and praise you for, because they know that you have overcome some insurmountable things to get them done.
It all ties back to the value of the day of being useful, right? People also will talk about you based off of how useful you are to them. So to your point, as a business owner, to your point, you can get so tied to the vision that you forget that, like, I need to be useful to everyone else. And my vision isn't what's useful, it's the execution of my vision that's useful. That's the thing that people are paying for. They're paying for me to execute on a particular thing, not on me having this idea or this utopia that I plan on creating, or this problem that I plan to solve. But the usefulness then tied to the action, and then the advocacy behind it. Like, it's really the trifecta of how do you make sure that you are moving your business forward, whether you're talking about it from an entrepreneurial perspective, or if you're talking about it from, a corporate perspective and being part of a different organization. But you absolutely have to be useful. And it's not just about the idea. So I absolutely love that.
I was thinking about earlier how we were talking about we don't want to be with the people who are the silent movie, right? And interestingly enough, I think when you're thinking about walking and talking, and usefulness is important, like we were saying earlier, you need to know who's useful, and you need to surround yourself with people who are useful. When we were little, we were not hanging with the people who could not walk and talk. Like, that's just bottom line. Okay. If you can't walk and talk, it's a wrap. And I feel like it is the same way to this day, right? Like, to this day, if you're not somebody who is also talking about it and being about it, you're not in my circle. Like, it's just not a thing, because the energy that the people around you create, right, is the energy that you will be able to walk and talk in, right? And we talked about this on other tips before with regard to just being able to have the right people in your community that are going to set you up for the most success. And if you're around a lot of people who maybe just talking, right, but not executing, or people who are just only in the weeds, right, but can't, be able to present and speak on their behalf or your behalf or sponsor for you at all, right, then it can stunt your growth and your ability to be successful. So one of the things that I also want to share was just keep in mind, do you have people in your circle who can walk and talk, right? Because even if you, it always takes a village, and you can't execute anything by yourself. And so when you're bringing people in, make sure that you're using your rubric, are they walking and talking, or is it a silent movie?
That's about, I feel like that's the mic drop moment, right? Are they walking and talking, or is it a silent movie? And that silent movie metaphor, really hit me in terms of people moving about, but no one saying anything. And that could be good, because there are times whenever you need to just buckle down and work. But at some point, we need to have some dialogue. We need to be sharing what we've learned. We need to be sharing opportunities that we've heard about. There's just so much value in talking and sharing and communicating. And I'd love that you pointed that out in terms of, even as young people, we were surrounding ourselves with people who could both walk and talk. Because I definitely feel like today that is one of my greatest strengths, is choosing the people who I surround myself wisely. I don't think I've ever had to cut anybody off and move into the space where I've had to bring a new group of people around me because the old one just wasn't it, or outgrew I outgrew them. So to your point, the walking and talking, like that movement, the old African proverb, right? If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And so there's this collective, we have this collective of people who are actively walking, who are actively talking, who are moving, who are progressing. You end up being pushed to go further than you could even go on your own. And so you're absolutely right. And we do, bring this up a number of times on the tip on top of the tip, is making sure that you surround yourself with people who are useful, who you can call on, who you can ask questions of, who can show you who you are, who can call out the actions that you've taken whenever, you aren't, when you're feeling a little self-doubtful, that having that kind of that kinetic energy and that positive space around you is really going to be the thing that can help keep you going and push you further than you could have gone on your own.
Absolutely. Well, I hope this was helpful, y'all. Like, get to walking and talking, okay? This is what I need y'all to do.
Get to walking and talking. And if you want to see more of us walking and talking, make sure you search Eventbrite Life Unlearned 2023, because we are going to be talking about all the things walking and talking with INEZ on our This is 40 episode. We'll be talking about career, of course, but parenting, friendships, relationships, just adulthood, all of the things that got her to this place that she's at now. So please make sure you check us out and get your tickets. It's only $10.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know. I feel like y'all leave us a comment on what your biggest takeaway was from today's tip. Okay, let us know what was the most aha moment. The aha moment that you had. I'd be interested to see.
Awesome. And well, guys, have an awesome weekend.
Yes.
See you again
We'll
in
see
2
you
weeks.
Bye.